All right, so we just got a G63 AMG in today for a general maintenance service. This one in particular is a 60,000 mile, 6-year service. So for the 60,000 mile service on a G63, it's engine oil and filter, obviously, which is every single service. Brake fluid, both of the in-cabin air filters, and the key fob battery. I always change the key fob battery every time I do a service on a car. And then in addition to obviously topping off fluids and doing a general inspection, setting all the tire pressures where they're supposed to be, and resetting the TPMS sensors. Okay, so just getting started on everything on the top right here to do just the basic inspection on everything and get the oil cap off so it drains a little easier and all that stuff. Engine cover off. We have a new leaf in there. Reduce that weight a bit. Fan feels okay. These engines typically don't have oil leaks unless they've been opened up by someone in the past. There's very little seals on this engine. Everything's sealant together, so it's very easy to have like human error on a lot of this stuff. Don't see anything. I did these air filters last time so they look clean. You can see they put little holes here to see the air filters. Not that you can see the like filter media, but you can at least see the age. A lot of times they'll age and turn like a little darker than that, like a light brown, not as much of a pure yellow like that. Don't see anything in there. This coolant level is good, all the way to the top, all the way to the max. Trying a flashlight to illuminate the inside of it. So yeah, everything looks good here. If there's anything wrong up top on these engines, you'll know it pretty clearly. And any oil leak you'll see on the bottom. Okay, so just starting up under it, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this panel because you have to remove it anyways for the service, and I can see the bottom of the engine a little better. Yeah. There's the initial thing I saw here. It looks like a sling pattern from a damaged axle or something. You can tell it's oil the way it's dyed into it. It's not, that doesn't seem like water. So let's check it out. So I basically just start with the suspension and go corner to corner. Look at the boots, make sure there's no rips in those anywhere. The axle's good, it's not slinging grease or anything. The brakes pads I've done recently, we didn't do rotors. Sway bar bushings are good. The inner axle boot is good. Tires still very healthy. At least 70% tread on the fronts. Brakes, very good, very thick. Okay, continuing on this side. You can see the upper ball joint is good, no damage on that one. And then these two lower ones, good, good. The shock bushing on each side, and this pressed inside the control arm I can see is good. Sway bar. The suspension on these are very stout. I very rarely see stuff that gets ripped out on these. Axle boots are good. Front brakes, even with the left side, still very healthy. Tire too. And the outside brake pad is also at the same amount. The other one is at 90 to 95%. Tire tread wear looks even all the way across. I don't see anything abnormal in any of the tread bars. And these front bushings on this control arm. This is one thing that you'll see sometimes on G-Wagons. You can see here the stress on it. You can see the cracks in some of these starting to form, and it will eventually tear out. Right here, for instance, that's a pretty deep tear starting to form there, and then you can even see it right here, it's tearing apart. But this is absolutely not to be concerned with at all. A brand new control arm bushing, in here you'll see like stress marks starting to form like this, but it will eventually tear. So, and it's just from the control arm having so much travel in it. There's so much pressure on that bushing. That's not to be worried about yet at all. So that's okay. As far as the bottom of the engine, starting from the front, don't see anything dripping. The oil cooler looks good over there. Okay, let me look at the back of the heads. They're good, no oil at all. Let's look at this one. The rear main seal plate on this one's not leaking a drop, which is pretty common on these engines. The back of this head is good, not a single. This is odd. You can see here, look at this sling pattern from this direction. How you can tell this flange here is slinging it out. And that is not axle grease, that is differential fluid, so yeah, I want to get that fixed. Especially since it's slinging it out. Even the slightest leak, it will like extract all the oil out of there with slinging it out. Like the centrifugal force will empty it. So that is an odd leak though. I haven't seen that one. But that'll be, even you can see here, how kind of, sort of around this flange is wet, which is typically where you'll see like an axle, like boot grease, but it's green. It's very obvious, and it would not be coming from this flange here. Just the radial seal in there will need to be replaced, and the front differential. But we'll get that quoted for them and see what that comes out to be. The oil filter looks good, all that looks fine. Transmission's good. Drive shaft feels good and stiff, no play. Transmission's not leaking in the transmission cooler. And the transmission mount back here. It looks good. And you can pull down on the drive shaft too. You see how there's like a little bit of motion in there whenever I pull down on it? That lets you know it's not completely collapsed onto the cross member here. So they're still flexing that, so it's still supporting itself. This front drive shaft, you can see a little bit of moisture here, was what I was kind of talking about, which is not to be concerned with yet. Basically, you look for sling patterns, and if you can see like a grease ring around like the bottom of the floor of the car, then at that point it's worth addressing and either putting a boot kit on it if there's one available, or replacing the joint. On these shafts particularly, if that was leaking, it would be a new axle. So the rear drive shaft, it looks good. No play at all. No play at all. This flange looks okay. It's a little darker around here, but definitely not wet. And of course, this is a solid axle in the rear, so you don't have boots or axles or nothing like that. The differential locking actuators are all electric, unlike the other ones that were hydraulic. So this isn't a leak point anymore. It's not really a failure point. Sway bar boots look good. Shocks aren't leaking back here. You can tell it's an electric adjustable shock here for different stiffnesses, but it's not leaking anywhere. Spring is okay. The differential cover is good. This shock is not leaking. Both these bushings are good, I see. And the rear brakes on this, pads are very thick. And these brake pads are also good. Okay. Yeah, so everything looks good under it and on top of it. I don't see anything worn out whatsoever, except for this front differential leak. Everything else, there's nothing concerning at all. Okay, so with all that out of the way, now on to the actual servicing. So let's get this oil draining out.